So I know the title of the video says was Morbius a bad movie, but we kind of know the answer to that. Yeah, Morbius was a bad movie. Morbius was a terrible movie. Morbius was a trash movie. We can go down the list of all things to describe how bad Morbius was. A lot of people didn't even see the Morbius movie and probably aren't gonna watch the Morbius movie. Yeah, in the box office, it flopped. Rotten Tomatoes gave it like a 17%, if I'm not mistaken. And what's weird though is that even though Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 17%, the audience score was higher. Let me check. We go on the wonderful website of Google. Oh, it's actually at a 16%. It has a 70% audience score. That's the thing that throws me off. It has a 16% from Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience score is a 70%. So it's weird, kind of. It failed in the box office. The second worst Marvel movie of all time, after 2015's Fantastic Four, which honestly was a god-awful movie, but we're not here to talk about that. So it kind of confuses me. What did the audience think about Morbius? What made them like it? What made a significant amount of people that aren't actual critics actually like the movie? And why were the critics the ones that gave it such a low score? That's a good question to ask. But as somebody who is critiquing this film, let me give my critique. Let's talk about the story of Morbius. The story that they gave, it was pretty bad. It made all the characters involved in it very boring, and it didn't let you connect with any of the characters. Like, you couldn't look at that movie and be like, I like this character, or I like the main character, or I like the villain. The story made all of them pretty bland, even though there was one guy who actually sticked out, and it was Matt Smith, who played Lucius, the antagonist in Morbius. He portrayed the character that he was supposed to play in that movie very, very well, and he kind of was carrying it, but he could not save the film. There's only so much you can do. I explained this in my Uncharted review, that you can have all these good actors, but if the story isn't good, there's only so much that the actors can do. And that's what happened here. Bad story, great actors, only so much the actors could do, and the film fell short. But let's talk about like the screenplay, like who the writers of this. The writers are Burke Sharpless and Matt Sazama. I haven't really heard of those guys, but I know that one of them, if I'm not mistaken, actually does vampire films. So he did Dracula Untold and a whole bunch of other movies that I think didn't really do that good in the box office. So that kind of tells you that going into this and having some assumptions in your mind seem that this probably isn't going to be that good of a film. As for Burke Sharpless, he relatively did the same exact movie, so I think those guys co-wrote the Morbius film and co-wrote other movies as well. So two guys that nobody has really heard in the entertainment industry as much took on a Marvel movie, and we know how big Marvel is today, and made it really bad. Aside from that, even the director, which was Daniel Espinosa, and he hasn't really done films that have just, won any awards as well, or at least that I know of. Leave a comment down below and inform me if Daniel Espinosa is some top-notch director, because I haven't heard of him or haven't heard of any of amazing work that he's done. So it seems that a lot of people that are involved in the making of this film didn't seem like they were going to give much promise of making this a good film, and they've succeeded giving us a bad film. Let's talk about fight scenes. Fight scenes were really, really bad. I don't know what was going on half the time in the fight scenes. They had this weird, like, smoky, little colory thing coming out of their body when they were about to slap each other in the face, Lucius and Morbius. And they would speed up when they would actually hit each other, and I'm just like, well, who hit who? Who hit harder? I don't know what actually happened. It just seems like they were bouncing off of the walls, like, back and forth and doing, like, weird flips in the air, and then they slow down for a second, and then they're like, are you gonna hit me or am I gonna hit you? I think I'm going a little bit faster, and then boom. I don't know what happens. Then they just tumble onto the ground, and then they have a little bit of dialogue, and then start fighting again, and then the same effects happen again. So it's like, I don't know who choreographed the fight. I don't know who did the special effects for it, but it was also pretty bad too. And let's move on to something else. Vampire films. Vampires suck people's blood. Blood is involved in a vampire movie. Yes, I know it's Marvel, and you want to be kid friendly, but we have Deadpool that's rated R and is showing blood. Morbius is a vampire. Show the freaking blood. Come on. There's got to be a little bit of gore in somewhere. You got to show a little bit of blood. Like, I get it, how the Morbius character is created. He, drinks the blue blood, and, he doesn't want to do the red blood because he doesn't want to become that type of person. I get it. But when it came to the scenes where he was technically killing people, you gotta show a little bit of blood. You gotta show the gore. You got to let people know that this is who this character is. This is how this character gets down when they're fighting humans and when they're fighting each other. Like when one vampire who's just as similar as Morbius are fighting each other. Like, you gotta show that. And please film better fight scenes. Everything fell flat. You know, for a film that's been pushed back probably what, like 2-3 times already, and you know, we get something like this, like, of course Rotten Tomatoes is gonna score this very, very low. Of course people aren't gonna go and watch it if they see that, you know, critics are reviewing this movie and saying literally nothing good about it. Oh, and the Spider-Man reference in there wasn't even shown, but they did mention the Sinister Six movie actually going to happen in the future. Sony did. Marvel hasn't really put anything out about, you know, a Sinister Six movie happening and it being involved in the MCU in any type of way. I guess they're waiting for the movie to be out a little bit longer and for more people to see it. I don't know. I don't know what's in store for that. I will try to get the information on that a little bit more and talk about it the next time around. The Morbius movie also explains how Vulture from Tom Holland's universe that we know actually ends up in Morbius's universe, because Morbius and Tom Holland's Spider-Man are in 2 separate universes. So when the multiverse cracked open and Doctor Strange was trying to do the spell that Peter had asked for, after Doctor Strange closes the multiverse, Vulture actually ends up getting sucked into Morbius's universe after Doctor Strange had reversed the spell in whatever type of whimsical way that he did. So now that Vulture is in Morbius's universe, what he is doing is trying to put together a team. So the first person that he notices is Morbius. He tells him to meet him in a location basically in the middle of nowhere and says, hey, you know, I'm kind of really trying to defeat this guy Spider-Man. I don't know if you know him. Pretty sure you do. So let's kind of like work together and take this guy down. Like, he's the true villain. You're not a villain, Morbius. Like, Spider-Man's a villain. You're not a villain, bro. Like, let's go take down the real bad guy. Morbius is taking the deal, and I guess that starts up a new Spider-Man film, I guess. But which Spider-Man is it? He's in a completely different universe. Who knows? We gotta wait for the Doctor Strange movie, and I guess we gotta wait for the end credit for that, for things to make sense, because, you know, if you do watch a Marvel movie and the credits start rolling, you are not supposed to leave. You're supposed to stay and watch the end credits. Final thing to wrap this up, if I were to give this my own rating, let's say I'm Rotten Tomatoes, but we're having the director Rotten Tomatoes meter. 30%. I'm giving this a 30% out of 100. I don't feel like the film was a 17%. It still is a bad movie, but I'm giving it a 30% because that's my rating. So yeah, film was terrible. If I had to give it a quick little review, if I was on the Rotten Tomatoes website, bad story, great actors. Actors could only do so much. Fight scenes were bland and couldn't see what was going on. Not a movie I would recommend to anybody. A forgetful Marvel film. Hope you guys did enjoy that. If you haven't checked out my recent YouTube short that I do have, which is my theory on which Spider-Man that Morbius is going to fight with Vulture, go ahead and check that out. Link is down below for that. Link is down below for any of the other videos prior to the video that I just dropped. Make sure you guys go check that out. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button as well, and leave a comment down below on what you think of the Morbius film. If you haven't watched it, are you gonna watch it? And if you're not, why aren't you? See you guys in the next one.